Hey, how's it going, y'all? Breaking news today, Saquon Barkley signs the richest contract for a running back in NFL history. Let's talk about it. So today, Adam Schefter reported maybe an hour or two ago that Saquon Barkley just signed a 2-year, $41.2 million contract extension with the Philadelphia Eagles, and this makes him the highest paid running back in NFL history. And this deal, I mean, think about that. After everything that's been going on with the NFL in terms of it being a passing league, you have Saquon Barkley have the season he had and signed this deal. And the Eagles rewarded him for everything he did last year. So this deal includes $36 million guaranteed at signing. And that makes him the first running back to get more than $20 million per year. And he has the ability to earn another $15 million in incentives and contract escalators. So they are taking care of your boy. Shout out to him. Shout out to his agent for getting the deal done for him. He deserved it. He earned it. I mean, you look at last year, he had one of the best seasons ever. I mean, you go across history. Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Jim Brown, LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson, OJ, the Juice. I mean, you go down the list of great running backs, Marshall Faulk. Go down the list, and he had one of the best seasons ever. So last year, he ran for 345 rushes for 2,005 yards and 13 touchdowns. And remember, the last game, they kept him out to keep him healthy going into the playoffs because he was 101 yards short of Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rushing record. And then in the playoffs, he added another 499 yards and five touchdowns on the way to that Super Bowl 59 beatdown of the Kansas City Chiefs. So you're talking about 2,504 yards combined in the regular season and postseason, which broke the record that was previously held by Terrell Davis when he was, running amok with the Broncos in 97 and 98. I don't remember which one of those years he did it, but back then you gave the ball to Terrell Davis and you couldn't stop the Broncos. And it felt like that with the Eagles. You gave the ball to Saquon. Now, he didn't get the consistent 5 yards every carry like Terrell Davis, but when you closed your eyes for 1 second, gone to the house. Like the amount of 60 plus yard runs he had this year was stupid. I mean, we think of the Rams game, obviously, and a couple others. And then obviously the one where he jumped backwards over the defender when we were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he had quite a number of highlights. You need a good 5 to 10 straight minutes of going through the highlights in a compilation to really get an appreciation and a grasp for how impactful he was this year. So, kudos to them for taking care of him, man, because he's the focal point not just of this offense on the field, but in the locker room as a leader. I mean, he really made his presence felt. And in the Super Bowl, when you look at the mic'd up portion that they released, he was there keeping everybody level headed, even keeled. Even though he didn't have the impact in that game that he had in the NFC Championship game, he was still keeping everybody focused, making sure everything was on time, and making sure people were locked in. And you have guys like him and Jalen Hurts that have that just locked in mentality among a few others, and you have a very tough team to beat going along with the physical talent that they have on that squad. So I mean, I really love the deal, and we'll see how that's going to affect what they do going into free agency. But what two things is going to affect is who they're able to bring back, which I'll get to. But secondly, this running back market, because now all of a sudden you have you have a team in the Eagles that identified an inefficiency in the market, an apples and oranges to tangerines comparison would be the Eagles of 2024 with recognizing that this running back was going to be underpaid on this market. And that's why they were able to get Saquon for as cheap as they did, as opposed to re-signing DeAndre Swift or getting another running back. And this is similar to the Oakland Athletics of the early 2000s, where they recognized a market inefficiency with regard to on base percentage. So everybody was focused on batting average, but they weren't necessarily focused on getting on base, like on base percentage. So they weren't necessarily concerned that guys were the best hitters for average. They were concerned with the fact that you can get on base, whether it's by a hit, whether it's being hit by a pitch, or whether it's a walk. Are you getting on base? And they were able to get guys cheaply because other teams didn't value it. And it took other teams a while to catch on to that, i.e., the Red Sox and some of the others. And then the playing field evened out again. But the same thing with the Eagles. You have the infamous Hard Knocks episode with the Giants where they said he was being overpaid. He was too expensive. And they got burned by that so bad that I don't think any teams have signed up this year to do Hard Knocks yet. So that tells you the impact that that one moment had on the psyche of the New York Giants and other teams as they look to sign running backs in the market now. Because before that, Christian McCaffrey, he was making $16 million a year on average. He was the top paid running back in the league. And we remember that contract that he got. And outside of him, at the top, there were only 6 running backs that were making more than $10 million a year, including Saquon Barkley at about $13 million. So it just shows you how devalued the position has been for guys like McCaffrey and Barkley to be that undervalued. And now he's making $20 million a year. And the last time I can really think of a running back having that type of impact, and, remind me if there are others if I'm forgetting, but Barry Sanders, when he got that record-setting deal back in the mid to late 90s, it might have been 97, he wasn't just the highest paid running back after signing that deal. He became the highest paid player in the league, if not league history up to that point. So when teams identify a guy that fits their need, who also happens to be one of the top players, not just at the position, but in the game, you would be very wise to sign them and reward them. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think. I'm looking at the comments right now. Shout out to my boy Randall Quinn. He says Moneyball theory, and that's exactly what we went over. And look, the Eagles, they sign guys early before the price gets too expensive. And please mind the glare in the camera. The sun's coming through the blinds, and I'm not going to make a big deal to get up and move right now. But yeah, I mean, that Moneyball theory where they were able to recognize that, hey, this guy's sitting out there and he's not washed. He was just playing behind a very bad offensive line and a team that had no weapons, and they were no offensive threat at all to defenses. So they would just stack the box against him. And once you put him on a team, even a good team, let alone a team like the Eagles with their offensive line, he has the potential to really just tear it up, man. And that's what he did. And do I know if he's going to get over 2,000 again? We don't know that. Not necessarily because he's going to be, fading away in terms of talent, but we don't know how this offense will change. Mind you, the Eagles just promoted an offensive coordinator from internally, so we don't know where he'll be different from Kellen Moore, if there will be more passing and less rushing attempts, things of that nature. We don't know. So we'll find out. But either way, man, they got him locked in for another 2 years with that extension, and it's just very, very good. So let me know what you guys think about that. And then I want to move on to the free agency and news and notes. And Darius Slay was released, for those that don't know already. So he was indeed a cut candidate like he thought he would be. So after 5 years with the Eagles, after trading for him from the Detroit Lions, he was released on Monday. And they designated him as a post-June 1st cut. So I'm not an expert on the salary cap, but what that means in a nutshell is that the Eagles are going to save around $4.3 million on the salary cap this year, but they have to carry his $13.8 million salary cap until June. So it will affect the moves they can make before that, but after that deadline, it will free up a significant amount of money for them to use moving forward. So And we don't know. Slay could be back, so we'll find out. But Darius Slay mentioned that he wanted to play for either the Eagles or the Lions as his top two choices. But in general, he wants to play for a contender because that's where he's at in his career. And he did a bang up job, not just of really making an impact on the field this year, but he wanted to make sure that the younger guys like Quinyon, particularly, and I would imagine Coop, were getting up to speed quickly. So I'm looking at a comment here, and this is my sentiment as well. Randall says, I think he asked to be released so he can go retire as a Lion. Just a theory. It's not a theory. I think I was watching his podcast. He has one on YouTube, and he mentioned like he has ties to the community. He was there for a very long time. They're also a contender. I don't think that's a coincidence as to why he wants to go there as another reason. So he has many reasons to particularly want to go back to Detroit, and I think he had Amunra St. Brown on his podcast, and either St. Brown or St. Brown's brother said, "Yo, man, just come on home, man. Like, come back home, big dog." So like, there's a connection there. So I would love to have Slay back at a reasonable price. If not, I think he would be best served to go to Detroit and try to win a championship. Hopefully, not going through the Eagles, but I think that would be a great stop for him if he didn't come back to Philly. But I loved him here. People were up and down during this time, but in general, I mean, if you're able to zoom out and look at this thing from a bird's eye view, he was impactful on and off the field, especially with man coverage and getting those other guys up to speed. There were points, especially last year and at times this year, where he was in the hip pocket of a lot of receivers. There was a point last year where he completely shut down Justin Jefferson, and he had some bright spots this year as well. And he wasn't injured like he was last year. So salute to Darius Slay. Got us to two Super Bowls, won one with us, and his legacy is cemented in my mind, man. So that was one of the Eagles, I would say, off the top of my head, top 10 trades. I would put Slay at least at number 10 because he helped to change that secondary. Because if we remember, let's go back in history, for years we suffered without a quality cornerback. I would say going back to the departure of Asante Samuel. Ever since then, we haven't had somebody where you could sit back and say, you got that, big dog. Follow their top receiver around the field. If they're going in motion or to the slot, you follow him. He was the first guy since Asante Samuel, and I would say guys like Lito Shepherd and Troy Vincent that could really follow a receiver, and you feel confident. Like when you put Troy Vincent on Isaac Bruce, you felt confident, even though that was a member of the greatest show on turf. You felt confident that Troy Vincent was going to lock him up, and for the most part, he did. So like he brought that to us. So hopefully he finds a good home, whether it's back here with us or with another contender. And then lastly, free agency wise, you have guys like Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, his deal is up. Zach Bourne, obviously they want to bring him back. So we'll see who they're going to have money to give to. Right now, before the deal, I believe they had somewhere around $22 million to spend under the cap. Obviously, that changed with the extension that they gave to Saquon Barkley, but I don't see Josh Sweat necessarily coming back. He's going to get paid a lot of money. And word on the street, whisper, is that they're going after Myles Garrett with a full court press. They're really interested in acquiring him from the Browns. So if they were to do that, I don't see Milton Williams or Josh Sweat necessarily being back. Maybe you could swing a deal with Zach Bourne if you were going after Myles Garrett, but you might have to trade somebody else. I'd have to really look at the scenarios, but I see them probably trying to bring Zach Bourne back on a reasonable deal, and then Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. One of those guys is probably going to come back, most likely Milton Williams because he's younger at 25. But if the numbers look right, neither of those guys may be back, and Myles Garrett may be teamed up with Jalen Carter, and that, as long as they're healthy, may make the Eagles' defensive line damn near unstoppable. There are no guarantees in life, but that defensive line might be as close to unstoppable as you may see, because you can't block either one of them one on one, and once you double team them, now any of your other two or three guys that you're going to be rotating in can go off. So hey, Howie Roseman, great job, phenomenal job, just managing the cap, getting this team where it needs to be, and now you're going into the 2026 draft. I believe the 2026 draft, they might have 2 first-round draft picks. But I'll cover that in another video once I go through all the details and whatnot. But they are set up for success, dude. They have a good, I would say, 3 to 4 year window before like you have to start considering these escalating contract numbers. But once they get to that point where contracts like Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown's jump by like 10 million, they'll have other contracts coming off the book. So they've really thought this out well. Howie is playing chess with a bunch of GMs that are playing checkers, it would seem, at the moment. So great job. Lastly, I want to go read the comments real quick. Randall, another comment. He says, if we get Myles, this is about to be a dynasty beyond scary D-line. You are 1,000% correct, my man. One can only hope, bro. If they do, look out. Look out, man. And then shout out to my boy Jules. Thanks for coming into the live stream and seeing what I'm talking about today. I'm also, you know what, before I end off here, I'll leave a little space because I'm going to chop this up. I want to talk about the boxing match between Tank Davis and Lamont Roach that happened on Saturday, because we have a new development on that. So recently it's come to my attention from a bunch of sources, but particularly Dan Raphael, very well known boxing writer and sports reporter. He said that Lamont Roach put in a petition to the New York State Athletic Commission to review the 9th round and overturn that fight, because it was ruled a majority draw. But I mean, you had a knockdown in the 9th round. That would technically, if you're going by the scorecards, give him a majority decision. On 2 of those scorecards that were scored a draw, he would technically be the winner, 114 to 113, instead of tied 114 to 114. So I'm going to read an article here real quick. It says Lamont Roach's attorney, Greg Smith, sent a letter to the New York State Athletic Commission Executive Director Matt Delaglio on Tuesday, requesting the commission review Roach's controversial majority draw with WBA lightweight titleist Gervonta Tank Davis on their pay-per-view card on Saturday. So it was a 4-page letter, and he was saying, what he said pretty much was, he thinks he should get the win. I don't disagree with him. I don't. The commission already said in a statement on Monday that it was reviewing the issues in the 9th round where Tank Davis took a knee and it wasn't ruled a knockdown. We saw this happen with Floyd Mayweather. I don't remember the name of the fighter, but he had to take a knee because I believe he might have hurt his hand in that fight, and they docked Mayweather a point. So in this fight, Tank Davis claimed that when he got his hair braided, this is his story, not mine, that during the fight, you have grease running down your face and it got into his eyes and he could not see. Now, I was reading an article and I didn't see the full fight, but there was possibly a sequence where he got hit with a punch leading up to that, and then he had to take a knee. Either way, regardless of the reason, there's nowhere in the rules, regardless of what your rationale is, where you can take a knee and it not be considered a knockdown. Like, that's just the letter of the law. So we'll see what turns out from that, but I'll keep you guys updated. But that's it. Let me know what you guys think the Eagles are going to plan to do in free agency and who you'd like to see them get, even beyond Myles Garrett. I mean, there are other guys out there, So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.